the right talk.
Charlie?
Welcome. This is the Charlie James Show.
Now we're talking.
News Talk 98.9.
WORD.
The voice of the Carolinas.
RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniels was on with Shannon Bream and talking about how the Democrats are trying to portray Republicans as being too divisive.
Well, we're seeing this happen, right? And I'm not surprised he's going to hide. He's hid from the press. He's hid from the American people. He doesn't take tough questions. He doesn't have to answer for anything, any of the scandals that he has in his presidency. So he's going to hide again, and most of the media will allow him to do that. But I do think he's right about one thing. We cannot win if we're not united. If Republicans don't vote for other Republicans, we're not going to win. And we don't just need all of Republicans. We need independents, too. You know, Shannon, Republicans are migrating. They are migrating to red states. Why? Because we've got great governors across the country, low taxes, our policies work. But it means the White House electorally isn't available to us unless we go through a purple or blue state. And those states are getting bluer because red voters are moving to the red states. So this is.
But are they getting bluer? Let's be joined now by Drew McKissick, the chairman of the SCGOP, vice chair of the RNC. Drew, welcome to the program. How are you?
Man, I'm doing well this afternoon. How are you?
Doing good. Ronna McDaniel said that we need purple states. A lot of people here in the upstate are thinking that South Carolina is getting pretty purple. What do you say about that?
Well, here in South Carolina, we know how much more Republican we've gotten in the last several elections. In the last two elections alone, in each of the two elections, rather, we have won more elections for Republicans in each of those elections than at any time in the last 150 years. We know we've got a record supermajority in State House of Representatives, first time since Sherman left town. We know we're one vote away from the supermajority in the Senate. We've elected more local county council members, sheriffs, et cetera, all the way around the state, and beat Democrats by a whopping 27 points on straight ticket voting, actually, last November, as a matter of fact, which is only 6 years ago, the first time we ever beat them on straight ticket voting. So we're getting more Republican here. But we do know who's moving into the state, and we're in the top 5 in the country in terms of the destination state where people are moving in. And we see where that's coming predominantly along the coast and then some up there in the upstate where you are. Mm-hmm. And typically what we see are, right of center retirees, especially along the coast. We get the lists, every 3 or 4 months of the new known Republicans who have moved into our state who have not yet registered to vote. They maybe were a registered Republican in, Pennsylvania or Florida or wherever they moved from. Most of them are tax refugees, I call them. Right. So they've come here because of, lower taxes, for one thing, property taxes and income tax. We've seen what's happened. So, for instance, Horry County, which is probably, I'd say making a run to be the most Republican county in the state now, giving Greenville a run for its money here in terms of the title. A lot of red state, or I'd say red, if you will, retirees from other states who come here, and then also places like, Beaufort County, Sun City, and the retirees you have down there. But it's a different situation in other states around the country, because a lot of those folks they're leaving, blue states or purple states in most cases, not exclusively, but in most cases when you average it all out. And, it does affect the electoral college math, for the White House in some places.
So winning elections is one thing, and that is great. Passing legislation is another. I mean, we are having struggles, it seems like, here in South Carolina, getting good conservative bills. I mean, you've got Republicans that want to be soft on abortion, Republicans that are against things like constitutional carry, things like closing the primaries. We can't get those things done. When we elect and expect things out of Republicans and then they don't seem to deliver, how are we supposed to react?
Well, sometimes it's a measure of how quickly they're able to deliver. So I'll just point out, in fairness, today the governor signed the school choice bill into law. The ESA bill we've been working on for 2 years now. So now you've got a segment of our population who are going to have a chance to have a $6,000 credit and be able to take their children out of failing public schools and on into private schools. That's something that next year legislators are going to look to ramp up even further, and then even further the next year, and to eventually where we can get to the point where we have universal school choice in this state. Great first step. Today, as a matter of fact, the legislature passed a certificate of need bill. You know, when you talk about free market choice in health care,
right?
Opening up health care options around the state for more people. The governor will be able to sign that into law in a few days, I'm sure. And then, of course, you pointed out the abortion issue. Well, we had, the most pro-life bill in the history of the state passed last year by our legislature. But then we had a Supreme Court that got in the way by a 3-2 vote and screwed it up, quite frankly. Since then, we've replaced one of those Supreme Court justices. And the Senate passed one bill, the House passed another bill, the Senate refused to pass the House's bill, so now we got to see if the House will pass the one the Senate passed. So it's nothing gets done overnight, and I would dare say no conservative would want to live in a country where anything and everything we would want could be done overnight, because then it could be undone overnight. When we lose the next election, if that happens. Legislation takes time, but they've made progress. And, so let's put it this way. If that weren't the case, you wouldn't see more and more people trending and voting Republican at all levels here in our state.
But again, when you say we've got a super majority in the House, we nearly have a super majority in the Senate. Why is it a struggle to pass conservative legislation? Why does it take so much time? Why can't we get the bills that are really important to the people of South Carolina passed relatively quickly?
Well, you get some of them. You can't always get all of them, because here's the thing. You and I could sit here right now and agree on a policy that we want, an end result, which is, let's say, for instance, from a party perspective, we call that our platform. These are things that we all agree on, a consensus document that we would like to see in public policy. What we don't always agree on, though, is how to get there, or what the details may be. And then sometimes people get caught up on the details over a matter of principle. So, it's one thing to say you've got two conservatives in a room and agree on where they want to go, but not over how they want to get there all the time. And then you add to that the fact that you've got two legislative chambers, not one. So both of them have to agree and then go back and forth. And, and there's only so many legislative days in any given legislative session. So they only have so much time to go around. They have to pass the budget, and that leaves less time to argue about differences over other bills. So, again, we've got where we got, in the last several years with the Heartbeat Bill, with the Open Carry with Training Act. We are moving on constitutional carry. You're going to see that become law sometime here in the future in South Carolina. If it's not this year, it will be before the end of next session. I don't have any doubt in my mind about that. The speakers, I know, is in favor of that and moving forward with that. And again, being able to get the certificate of need this year and be able to get the school choice this year. We've worked on that for like 2 years now, and that's great progress for educational choice in this state. And you add to that now having a superintendent of education in Ellen Weaver, who is a huge school choice advocate. I think you're going to see the legislature move further and faster on things like school choice because of that.
Well, certainly, but you can understand, people's frustration when we hear about how conservative our legislature is supposed to be, and then these bills just keep going by the wayside. We just had Shane Massey saying that he was for gun rights, but he wants you to get a permit and have the training and all of that stuff. It's just it gets incredibly frustrating for the average voter there when they take the time, they go to the polls, and it doesn't seem like the issues that they care about actually get taken care of. I wish we could have more consensus in our state legislature and less bickering.
Well, that would be asking that people involved in politics weren't human. And personalities do influence politics, no doubt about that. All the other human frailties and everything else we have in every other endeavor of life certainly work their way into politics. And then we have these things called primaries, and voters come around in primaries and they make judgments on, those who represent them, either in the legislature or in local office. Sometimes they make changes, sometimes they don't, and that influences things. I think maybe the recent, debate that the Senate had over abortion, last week over the House's bill, might play, I would say, in primaries next year. You'll probably see some of that. and whether or not though the House can take action on the Senate's bill might play in primaries next year. So all of this is, they stand for judgment before other primary voters. But, I can say, with certainty, in the last several cycles, we've seen more things get done that is on the conservative checklist than we had in the years prior to that, because we keep adding to our numbers. The more conservatives who do join the legislature, the harder it is for a few people who don't necessarily agree with us but might wear our jersey to actually get in the way.
All right, Drew McKissick, chairman of the South Carolina GOP. Oh, by the way, Ronna McDaniel's talking about how many debates coming up?